Hey guys, thanks for joining me, and if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, peoples. I am really excited about this Keryx from Miguron. I've had it for a month now, and it's time to do my disassembly in preparation for my review, which, spoiler alert, is going to be freaking awesome. I think this might be the best budget knife of the year so far. And I just sharpened it with my KME system, and you can see that the 14C28N takes a phenomenal edge. You can see my marks there where I put some Sharpie on, but I'll wash that off when we're done. First things first, what's going to happen here is I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this in fast motion. I'm just going to point out some of the things I like about this in preparation for the review. I love this forward finger choil area. It's a liner lock with good, very nice machining on the edge there, which is really cool. Action on it is great. I don't have to fix any of the action, and it's currently totally centered. This is got a very nice micarta handle, and I'm going to be giving away one of these. I just bought a new one to give away to my Patreon and YouTube supporters, and I would love to get some more supporters. So if you are thinking about supporting me, now's the time to do it before I give one of these brand new away. Full liner back here. The flipper tab is great, and the thumb holes for Spidey flick are great, and for thumb flick not so much, but the Spidey flick is great. Yeah, just all around, I'm really digging it, dude. I dogged this guy, dogged it in the warehouse to the point where I had to sharpen it up, and now I just put a razor sharp edge on it. And I'm excited to see how the 14C28N lasts now that I put my own edge on it. All right, so we're going to go to warp mode, and I'm going to disassemble it, and I'm going to show you guys the inside. And we're going to see how it's put together, and then we are going to have some final words. All right, engage warp mode. And we're back already. So this pivot is so locked in that I can't do it. There's a lot of Loctite on here. I tried the back bolts and they both loosened up immediately, but this pivot isn't. So I'm going to try a trick here. I'm going to try to heat up the pivot to melt some of that like Loctite before I strip it too bad. All right, it's nice and hot now, I'll tell you that. Let's see if that worked. It worked. I says maybe prematurely. Yeah. All right. It worked. So let's see how much Loctite is actually on this guy. That was insane. Um, insane amount. So, you know, when they put on a lot of Loctite like that, sometimes you got to do that. Luckily, heating it up with the heat gun was good. But you can see in there tons of Loctite on this, and a little bit on the thread. Most of it's on the inside there. All right, so I was able to get that apart. That was a little scary, but I did it. All right, we're gonna engage back into warp mode here. Engage. All right, and we're back, and we're looking at the inside here. So, like I said, an insane amount of Loctite on there. And I don't think I damaged the bearings at all by heating them up. You can see that there's some nice machining in here that keeps the weight down. I forgot to show you where the balance point on this is, but it's pretty good. We've got a lock back pin back here. We want to make sure that this is loose, so when you open it up, you want to make sure it doesn't disappear on you. And this is a barrel insert bolt here that gets tightened from both sides for this liner here. I've just taken off the show scale side so that I could look at the inside and then clean it. So now I'm going to go ahead and clean it. But, you know, we've got standard construction here. This is sandwich construction. We've got no nested liners. So we've got, you know, a piece of the micarta and then we've got the liner and blah blah blah, and there's no nesting here, but there is some weight reduction here. This is a $50 knife. I believe there's a version of it that's $59 as well, but you know, fairly inexpensive and cheap. All of the hardware on here is T8. There was too much Loctite on there, so I'm not going to repeat that mistake. I am going to try to clean as much of the Loctite out as possible, but I'm going to use some light Loctite. Now, if you don't have Loctite, in the end, it's, you know, 9 times out of 10, you really don't need to put Loctite on there unless, but if you do choose to, you don't need much. You just need the barest amount. You don't want to be some Joe Schmo inside of the factory got really happy with his Loctite job and decided he was going to give us a bunch of extra for free. And we don't need that. So I'm just cleaning out all of this stuff, the bearings, where the bearings go, the bearing track with alcohol, and the pivot, and the bearings themselves. And then I'm going to apply some knife pivot lube to those spots and reassemble this. And like that. One other good thing about Miguron is that they have these, you know, the very nice like pivot, and this is self-locking. It locks actually into the micarta. Here there's like a little ledge right there, and it just locks in there, so that the M is always facing back to the back of the knife, and now it is locked. And it's not free spinning is what I mean. So when you tighten it back up, you don't need 2 torques, one on each side to, you know, do that. I also don't want to get oil on the detent ball. Detent ramp on this is pretty darn good. With a liner lock, getting oil on the face of this here, and it doesn't have a metal insert, but you're not expecting that for $50. But getting oil on the metal insert or the detent ball is not a good thing. It will end up giving you some lock stick, and this didn't have it when I started, so I don't want to, you know, make that mistake of accidentally giving it lock stick. So I'm only going to be putting a little bit of grease here on the pivot, and I'm going to use KPL, the light KPL stuff, and I'm just going to put some here on the face, just a drop. I don't need much, and a little bit on the pivot. And then I'm going to drop one of the bearings, which I'm just going to rub here to get some of the, make sure that I get the alcohol off here, and put one here. And then the knife I did clean on both sides, but again, I am going to clean off that spot. And while I'm here, these Sharpie marks here, I'm just going to go ahead, and since I have this some here, I'm just going to go ahead and clean off those Sharpie marks as well from my sharpening earlier with the KPL. Clean the blade really nicely, get up in here. 14C28N, if you don't know, is a steel. It was originally developed for razors and works really well for knives. It's the best budget brand out there. Best budget steel, I think, out there that you can get for 50 bucks. So it feels like we're fast approaching the point where maybe something like S30 you can get. Well, you can definitely get S30 for under 100 now, but you know, one day maybe S30BN will be something that is in this price range. Even then, I really like the way that 14C28N sharpens. It can be hard to get that initial burr. At least that's what I found myself. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I find it a little hard to do. And so, you know, but once you have established that burr initially, it ends up being taking a really fine razor's edge, as you would expect from something that, you know, was made for razors. So yeah, I am going to just, I'm not going to tighten these up, but I'm going to put in the back spacer bolts first. And I guess I haven't decided not to go to warp speed here with this reassembly, just because I had some more information to share with you. And At least I'm doing something while I'm talking to you. All right, so now this pivot here, I actually forgot um, to wash out the extra Loctite. The thing is, though, that it's really hard, going to be really hard to get that Loctite out of this hole. But also, once Loctite is dry, I'm very carefully just removing some with my spring bar tool here, just scratching it without scratching the threads themselves, and then blowing out some of it. Once it's dry, it's done its job. So heating it up loosens that bond, and then it's not going to rebond. When I tighten this back up, it's not going to rebond here. I'm not going to end up putting Loctite on it because it had so much originally. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it up and see what happens. And let's check out the centering on this. Almost perfect centering just by tightening it up like that, which is good. But I do want it, I think, to go a little bit more towards the show scale side. Right now, it's, that's odd. It shouldn't, oh, well, the back spacers aren't tight. All right, so let's tighten these guys back up. This full back spacer is pretty darn nice. Overall, for a $50 knife, this is put together really, really well. You come to expect top quality knives from Miguron and such. Things that are, now that's really interesting. It's centered toward the clip side just a little bit. And that really shouldn't happen. Usually if a knife isn't centered, it's going to be uncentered toward the show scale side because the liner lock is pushing against it toward that side. So to have it not do that means that there's a little bit of a twist in here. So what I'm doing is I'm loosening everything up, and then I'm going to take a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard here, and I'm going to push it over to the side that I want it in, and now it's there. And I'm also going to twist it so that it goes to the side that I want, which would mean twisting it like that. I'm going to twist it real hard that way, and then I'm going to tighten up the pivot just a little bit, not all the way down, and then tighten up the screws, all the screws just a little bit, kind of like a tire where you go back and forth on everything. And now I'm just going to tighten it all back up, and we're going to see if with that piece of cardboard jammed in there, it's now better and centered and a little bit of a twist, right? All right, now we don't want to over tighten the pivot either. I'm going to pull this cardboard out. And now we have the opposite effect. We have gone too far in the wrong direction. And so now I'm going to loosen this back up and twist it and see it just a little bit in the other direction and see if I can get it perfectly lined up. Another thing that I really like about this Miguron, this Keryx, is the clip. It's milled titanium, which is just incredible for a $50 knife, I think. And it also has this nice shape. Like usually you just get a standard straight one. This looks really nice and curved. It looks nice in the pocket, right? So now we're going to go through and just tighten this up just a smidgen, not totally clamped down yet. And now I'm going to tighten this pivot just a little bit more. And now these back spacers, I'm going to tighten the rest of the way. And then we're going to pull this out and see how we're doing on center. We're basically back to perfectly centered. Still a little bit, just a little bit to the clip side. Don't really mind that though. Action is nice, great still. If anything, I have the pivot just a little bit too tight. Let's see if we have any blade play. Absolutely no blade play. Going to very carefully just loosen that a smidgen poo. No blade play. Once the ball gets onto the ramp, it's falling shut. Very good. So I could loosen that pivot just a skosh more, but I'm not going to because it's going to wear in a little bit more. And I think that that's good. And if anything, actually, I think I'm going to tighten it back up again. Yeah, I'm going to tighten it back up again. There we go. Okay, we're looking good. Great. All right, awesome. Well, yeah, I think this is a well put together budget knife. I really like it. I enjoy it. And I think that you should definitely pick this up. There's a link down below. Any Amazon link that you use of mine will help out the channel just a skosh. I'm using that word a lot today. So I'd appreciate it if you use it. But if you don't, I don't mind that either. Do you. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to get a chance to win this knife, or actually a brand new one that I just bought, all you have to do is click the link below to support me either on Patreon or as a YouTube channel supporter, and then you'll be entered to win the knife at the end of the month. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next time on Sharp Ends. Bye-bye now.